Hello, welcome back to Wearing History. I'm Lauren and I'm going to show you today how to make a super easy and free apron with pockets. This apron is made in the holiday season of 2020 and a lot of us are at home and aren't doing our normal holiday things. But what can you give someone stuck at home for a Christmas present? An apron. Everybody's cooking right now, so it's really a great thing to make for yourself. It's a great holiday gift, and whether you're watching this in April or you're watching this in December, aprons are awesome. Make yourself some aprons. Now, because it's me, I had to have a vintage slant on making an apron, so I looked in my old books to try to find an apron pattern, and I didn't find anything that I particularly liked, so I drafted my own. I checked out the Make, Do, and Mend book from the 1940s. Didn't find an apron. I looked at the Mother-Daughter Fashions of the 1940s. Didn't find an apron. I looked in the Singer Sewing Guide of 1949 and I found an apron, but it was a little complicated. So for this tutorial, you get my very own apron that I have made for you, and you can print this out on my website and I will link it in the downloads. The Singer Sewing book in 1949 talked about making your apron, and it wanted you to make a waistband and ruffles and all sorts of things, and it lists it as a very first beginner sewing project. This is not unlike home ec that was still in schools when I was in school. Yeah, I'm old. So it says, why make an apron? Because in doing so, you will learn sewing techniques that you will use again and again in garments of many types. I'm going to show you how to cut your apron from only 1 yard of fabric. And for this tutorial, I'm using this super cute fabric from Birch Organics. It's the Charlie Harper collection, which is based on 1950s illustrations from books. Because nothing says Christmas like trash pandas eating your sweets. For this, you're going to need your waist measurement. To measure your waist, it's the smallest part of your natural waist. Get a tape measure like this, and to take it and wrap it around on top of whatever you're going to wear your apron with. Let's see, I'm about 32 to 33 inches on top of my dress right now, so I'm going to make half of my waist measurement be about 16 inches. If you're making this for someone else, you can just guess. It doesn't matter if it wraps farther back or a little bit closer in front. They won't care. It's going to just be a gift. They're going to love getting it. Many vintage manuals I looked at didn't even give it. They were one size fits most, so it doesn't really matter where your apron hits. For the length you want, you can go super long and be more like cottagecore, Edwardian. You can go mid-length and be 1950s, 1940s. For the length of mine, I'm thinking I want mine to hit 40s or 50s length, so that's going to be about maybe 16 to 18 inches from my waist. And I need to add hem allowance into that as well, but don't worry, I'll show you how to do that. And if you want the shorter length, you can use the extra part of the yard of fabric to make ruffles or extra pockets or all sorts of fun things. So don't let this limit your creativity, just go for it. The first thing I'm going to do is draw this pocket right here. And it needs to be 8 by 10. Now the next thing I'm going to do is draw up my straps. So I need to do 5 inches down from the top. Now I'm going to cut that out. Now I'm going to lay this on top and cut my second waistband. I can just pin it across to make sure that they're the same size. And I'm going to cut that out too. Two straps. So this is the apron, these are the straps, and you have 1 pocket. Before I forget, I'm going to write down my waist measurement, which is 32, and half of it, which is 16 inches. Now, I'm going to cut this shorter. So currently it's 26. I want it to be 20 1/2. That is 18 inches in length, 2 inches for hem, and 1/2 inch for seam allowance. Luckily, my ruler has numbers on it. Now I'm going to connect those dots. And now I'm going to cut it out. Now I have all of this left to do something else with. Make a hair bow, make a pot holder. There's lots of things you can do with scraps. Or you can make ruffles for your apron. Today I'm using this vintage fob. So you're going to take your 2 waistbands pieces and we're going to make the center front seam right now. If you have any kind of salvage with the little holes or the dots in it from the weaving, make sure you cut that off first, because a lot of times the salvage is wider than 1/2 inch and we're using only 1/2 inch seam allowance in this tutorial. You're going to take your fabric and make sure that if it's directional, like mine has the little raccoons on it, that they're facing in the same direction. Put them right sides together and pin them. Then I'm going to seam 1/2 inch right there at center front, and we're going to press our seam open. You want to make sure that your machine is oiled and you have a fresh new needle in there, and make sure you have your trusty snips. Okay, we're using 1/2 inch seam allowance. So for this I have this little magnetic little doohickey. See? These are really cool. I'll put an Amazon link below that you can grab one if you want. So if you don't have the measurements on your machine, you can stick that on and it sticks. It's magical. I've pressed open my 1/2 inch seam here at the front. You need to make sure that you know which side is facing up if you have a directional print. So I want my raccoon little faces to go on my waist like this. That means that this is the back side of the apron waistband. On the back side of the apron waistband, turn up 1/2 inch, about as long as half of your waist measurement. And it will make it a lot easier to finish that seam once you've got everything together. The next thing I want you to do is take your apron piece. We're going to fold this in half so you can mark your center front line. Just take it, match your salvages together, which is this woven edge, and then you're going to take your iron and you're going to press it right on that fold, like this. That helps you figure out where to attach your waistband to. You can also make a little snip right here at the center front at the top if you want to. Just make sure it doesn't go as much as 1/2 inch, like 1/4 inch is totally fine. Now that we have that done, we're going to mark our 2 inch hem allowance on our piece. So it's going to be on both sides where the salvage is and across the bottom edge. What I'm going to do for mine is use a chalk, and this kind of chalk will come out in the wash. You won't see it, but test this on your fabric first to make sure that it works, because if you're using a certain kind of fabric, it might not come out. I have a handy 2 inch ruler. To do this, I'm going to do it on the right side of the fabric, which means the side where the printing is. Once that's done, you're going to turn in 1/2 inch. And now you see where your lines are. You're going to turn it up on that line and you're going to pin it to place. Now that I've turned it all under and I've pinned it, I'm going to sew very close to that folded edge right there, right close to there. And I want to make sure that I tack down these edges too. So I'm probably going to sew back stitch right there and then start all the way across the bottom and continue so that I don't have any flappy bits on the back side. That's the technical term. You may wonder why I allowed such a big hem, and that's because if you're wearing your apron and you get a little flip back, it's the pretty side of the fabric that you see instead of like the wrong side. What we're going to do next is the pocket. So if you don't like this orientation of your pocket, you can flip the orientation. Likewise, you can cut it in a different shape if you have enough fabric. It doesn't really matter. So the first thing I want you to do is turn under 1/2 inch at the top edge of your pocket. After you've turned this under 1/2 inch. I want you to turn it under again 1 inch. Then we're going to stitch from here to here so you get a nice finished edge to your pocket. Now I'm turning under my seam allowance on my pocket. I'm going to compare my two sides to make sure they're about even, and they are. Now I'm going to stitch here to here to hold that in place. Now I need to place my pocket. What I'm going to do is measure halfway between the side seam and the center front of the apron. That's super easy. The only way you have to do it is to fold it. So I'm folding it in half, and I can see that this is about where I want the center of my pocket to be. I think I want it to hit a little above halfway, so I'm going to fold it in half again, and I'm going to press it one more time. I have sort of a grid that I've pressed into my fabric. I know I need enough room from the top to be able to get my hand in, so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I want to put it about maybe 3 inches below the center mark. Luckily mine has a stripe, so if I wanted to even match the stripe, I could do that. That looks like a good spot. I'm going to take it and I'm going to pin my corners to make sure that it's straight. And now I'm going to stitch the outside edge very close to the fold line. Now I'm going to gather across the top of the front. So you're going to use the biggest stitches that you have on your sewing machine, and you're not going to back stitch at all. I want you to run 2 lines of gathering stitches. One I'm going to do at about 1/4 inch, one I'm going to do at about 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more. Then we're going to pull these in and make them fit to the waistband. Grab 2 of those threads and you're going to start pulling it like this, and that's going to create your gathers. Be very careful and work it slowly. And depending on your waist measurement, that's how tight of gathers you're going to have. Keep working it with your fingers all the way across. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to match this to your waistband, and the center front of your apron where you made that snip or you pressed it is going to match to the seam on the waistband. Now if you remember, I said the amount that you need to gather in is half of your waist measurement. So for me it's about 16 inches. I need to divide that in half again and put 8 inches on each side of the center front seam. Center front is going to match to the fold on the apron. And I'm going to mark with a pin half of my waist measurement, which means 1/4 of your waist measurement. So if it's 16, that means I need 8 on each side of center front, and then I'm going to put a pin there. You're almost done now. You're getting towards the end. Yay! So after you've sewn this together, it should look like this. Press this up towards the waistband, and then we're going to do the next part, which is making the ties. Now we have to finish the ties. The ties are going to be folded right sides together like this. It's going to be 1/2 inch all the way down and all the way up to the end. So match your cut edges and pin them lengthwise all the way on this tie and on the other tie, and then we're going to stitch them, and I'll show you how to do that. Now I did tell you to press up your seam allowance right here. This one part of the seam allowance right at the edge, you're going to need to make it so it faces down. The reason we pressed it up is so that the gathers automatically want to go up in there so we can finish it afterwards. But this part right here at the edge, we need facing down right now so that we can stitch those seam allowances together. And you are going to stop your stitching right exactly where this attaches. So you need to stop your pin right there. I'll show you. When it's pinned around, you can see it's like this. So I just pinned my edges. I didn't use a whole lot of pins. You don't really need a whole lot unless your fabric is wiggly. But at the part where it's stopped, you can see when this faces down, my stitch line for the gathering stops right there. That's where you're gonna stop your stitching for the ties. So this is where the gathering was attached. You're going to back stitch right there, and then you're gonna go all the way down the length of the tie. When you get to your corner, you're going to pivot like you did with your pocket. So put your needle down and then turn it and then back stitch here. So you're going to stitch all the way down the length and then up the end of the tail. And when you get to the edges of the ties, you're going to snip off the corners. After you've sewn both ties and you've clipped your edges, you need to turn them right side out. So that center part of your apron, where it's not stitched down, there should be a little opening right here like a tunnel. You take a bodkin, I will link below an Amazon affiliate link, and you stick it in all the way to the end, and then it has this little hook, and you can grab your fabric and very carefully with your fingers pull it through, and it'll turn it right side out like this. Really neat. After I've turned it, I stick my bodkin in again, and I get down to the little corners and I just poke them out so that they're not turned in. And then I'll press it. So do that for both sides. If you remember in a prior step I had you fold this seam allowance up, well, now you'll see what it's for, because after you've turned it right side out, you've got your fold already made right here, which is really cool. This fold will match up with your seam line on your gathers, so when you fold it down, it'll lay right there. You're going to pin this to place, and then you're going to stitch it very close to the end, and then your sewing is done. After you've finished doing this, you can take out your basting thread that you had to hold your gathering in. Then give it a final press and try it on. It's done! Super cute vintage fun apron, super easy with a pocket. So to put it on, just put it on your natural waist, bring your ties around to the back and make either a knot or a bow. That's it. And the pocket is the perfect size to stick something like your cell phone. So if you make one of these, please tag me on Instagram and show me. I would love to see your creations that you made from this tutorial and this pattern. Don't forget, I have the free printout that you can get. The link will be below. And I hope you will join me for more adventures, especially next time, because I've got something very exciting in the mail. This is a 1940s pattern catalog, and I can't wait to open it and show you what's inside. Alright, subscribe if you like my videos, and please leave me a comment and let me know how you liked it. Thank you. Bye. Sewing book in the shoot. Put the bobbin in first. These are annoying. Okay, now I'm going to take this super zoom in. I don't want my face. Both ties.